So Gervonta Davis versus Lamont Rose Jr. seems like a done deal for December 14th. It actually is supposed to take place in Houston. I don't think that makes any sense because it's a DMV fight, so it should be, in the DMV area. But I don't think anyone really wants to see the fight. I'm a big Tank fan, but I don't want to see the fight as well. We know Gervonta is going to beat him. Lamont Rose poses no threat to Gervonta. But to his defense, Loma doesn't want to fight him at the moment. Shakur Stevenson is injured. And those are the main fights that he wanted. So he's kind of in a stalemate. So I understand, you just have to grasp for straws and find an opponent. Zepeda's about to fight Farmer, and then, he's going to try to look for a fight with Shakur Stevenson after that. So, it's a lot of stalemate right now. But after Tank beats Roach, everyone's going to be wondering what's next for him and who's he going to fight. So I'm going to put together a tier list of opponents that I think he could face and place them at the best chances they have to beat Gervonta. The first opponent up on the tier list is Floyd Schofield. So Floyd Schofield here reminds me a lot of Sean Porter. I think he's a 135 Sean Porter. His punches are the biggest. He's a big physical fighter for the division, and he looks pretty strong. We have to see how his cardio holds up in a championship level fight. He's very inexperienced. He leads forward with his head a lot, and I think little mistakes such as, falling over your feet and rushing in at times would be easy for Tank to capitalize on. Like I said, he's very strong. He might be stronger as well, but it's not going to help him beat Tank at all. I think Tank right now will absolutely obliterate him. He doesn't have anything to bring to the table. And I'm not really high on him to even begin with. So I will have to put Floyd Schofield at the hell no tier. The next opponent up on the tier list is William Zepeda. So I'm very high on William Zepeda. I like watching him fight. He's your typical Mexican style. Pressure heavy on the front foot. Pretty much flat-footed. He has good power. His punch variety, in my opinion, is elite. His punch placement is not that bad. He's overall a really good fighter, and I think he could be the future of the division. It also seems like he has a relentless cardio. He doesn't slow down at all. He has some variables that could give Tank problems. He has a decent jab, but he does most of his work on the inside, and that's very dangerous with Tank because Tank is good at all ranges, especially in the inside. I think the shot placement is going to be the big factor in Zepeda versus Tank. We've seen versus Jojo Diaz. Jojo Diaz was able to find that right hook at times versus Zepeda. He actually kind of buzzed him at one point. I think if he's able to endure Tank's power, he would give him hell. But the thing is, could he? And I don't think he can. I think Tank will work Zepeda's body and then come up top with uppercuts and right hooks. And basically in the matchup, it's a ticking time bomb. Zepeda is walking into a bomb at all times. And I'm not sure he can solve the puzzle for 12 rounds. He's going to get caught. He's going to get touched. Tank's too experienced. His footwork is elite. He's able to take angles. He's able to box, and people don't realize that. He's a good boxer as well. I think there's going to be times where Zepeda is able to cut the ring off and get to Tank. Tank's going to be able to fight him off and hurt him at points. I would have to put William Zepeda at the decent chance tier. So the next guy is actually a champion, WBC at 140. Devin Haney. So at 135, I would be almost 80% confident that Tank would dispose of Devin Haney. But at 140, there's going to be some obstacles. Devin is a significant bigger fighter. And Tank has mentioned that he doesn't like the way he feels at 140. I do think Devin's footwork is good, but his defense is not that great. He's very leaky, especially when he throws his jab. He throws his jab more in an arrow form, which leaves him exposed at times. And guys are able to find him down the middle or find the hook just like Ryan Garcia did. Granted, Ryan Garcia and Gervonta Davis are in different stances, but I see a lot of openings for Tank. And also I want to mention that at 140, it seems like Haney is still having problems making weight. He has not missed weight yet, but you can see the way he looks. He still looks very drained, and I think that could catch up to him. Haney's going to work his jab like usual, but I don't really see any other realms he can have success in. I think Tank's the faster fighter. He could beat him to the angle. He could beat him to the step. Tank also has good footwork, and he's able to cut off the ring. And I think that's going to be another thing. When he has Haney on the back foot near the rope, he's going to start landing those blistering combinations and going to the body, coming up top. It's going to overwhelm Haney. And I also could see Tank, investing to Haney's body early, slipping under the jab, ripping to the body. I see Gervonta stopping Devin Haney 100%. And I think it could be early, but I would probably go, 9th to 10th round. The big factor for me is the weight, but I still can't give Devin Haney a great chance. So I will have to put Devin Haney at the low chance tier. The next boxer up on the tier list is Andy Cruz, Olympic gold medalist. It's great to finally see that he went pro. He's had a few good victories. He just fought Antonio Moran, I think his name was. He actually got hurt in that fight. He got buzzed by a left hook, I believe, but he was able to find the KO. He finally got a finish. He looked pretty good in the fight besides that one moment. Andy Cruz is ultimately a supreme boxer. Angles, jab, combinations, variation of punches. Like, he does everything very well. I still think that he's adapting to the pro game. He's not fully there yet. He needs more experience overall. Right now, if he were to fight Tank, the way it would go is like a lot of other Tank fights. He would definitely win at least 5 to 6 rounds. Maybe that's a little much. I can see maybe 4 to 6 rounds, and then Tank will eventually find the kill shot. I think the stage would be too big for Cruz at the moment. Tank is elite at cutting off the ring. I think once he has Andy Cruz on the back foot against the ropes, he's going to find the kill shot. Andy's going to start dipping his head, following into the uppercut. Tank's going to start attacking the high guard with hooks and just getting through, hurting Andy. And I think he would ultimately overwhelm Andy. It's crazy because I believe Andy and Tank are around the same age. He has some catching up to do when it comes to the pro game. But if he has a little more experience, I'd be more confident in Andy. At the moment right now, I would have to put Andy Cruz at the low chance tier. He is a good boxer, but he needs more experience. That's the big factor right now. The next boxer up on the tier list is actually the IBF 140-pound champion. Just dethroned the boogeyman Subriel Matias, Liam Parro. It's crazy. Most of us thought that Matias was fucking Michael Myers. Parro was able to neutralize his game and beat him pretty easily, honestly. Parro's a southpaw as well, just like Tank. Parro's not the biggest 140-pounder. I actually think he's smaller than guys like Haney and Teo. I mean, height-wise, he's bigger than Teo, but frame, he's not that big. Physically, it's not going to be, too much of a difference with Tank and Parro. I wouldn't be surprised if Tank's a little stronger than him in some clinch opportunities, but Parro's a good boxer. He has decent power. His defense is good as well. He's very disciplined. He has good cardio. He has championship experience at this point. I think he has a lot of good variables when it comes to Tank style. I think with Parro's boxing ability, his discipline, and him staying in his form, I believe he would give Tank one of the hardest fights at 140. So I would have to put Liam Parro at 50-50 chance. Even though I think Tank would beat him, I have to put Parro at 50-50. The next boxer up on the tier list is rising contender Keyshawn Davis. He was an Olympian. He has experience. He's transferred to the pro game very well. He's shown to have decent power, his volume, he has good combinations. His punch placement is probably the best aspect of his game, in my opinion. His footwork is okay. He's pretty fast. He has good speed. He has pretty much the full package. I think in a fight with Tank at this moment, I think he would give Tank a good fight. I think it would be a war, but I do think that overall the experience and power of Tank would, eventually win him the fight. We've seen him get hurt by Albright. And also a thing with Keyshawn is he's very emotional, which isn't a bad thing, but I believe when you fight Tank, he's talking to the crowd, kind of getting in your head. It's a big stage. I think he can, start making Keyshawn make bad decisions, overextended on punches, trying to get back on Tank. And I could see, Tank making him pay for it. But stylistically, he does have a good style to give, Tank a good problem, a good threat. So I would have to put Keyshawn Davis at the decent chance tier. So the next boxer up on the tier list is two-time undisputed champion Naoya Inoue. I'm a big fan of Inoue. I honestly think he's pound for pound number 2 right now, behind Usyk. If you want to exclude heavyweights, then Naoya Inoue is the pound for pound best fighter right now. I just wanted to add this in the video because we need to stop talking about Tank and Inoue. I don't think Tank would go down to 130, so the fight would have to be at 135. Inoue's already 31 years of age, so he would have to, bulk up to 35. If he's not even close to that weight right now, what makes you think that, in a few more years, he'll be bigger? As you age, you do get bigger, but I don't think he'll ever be big enough to even be a 130-pounder naturally. I don't think that's ever going to happen. Overall, Tank is just too big for Inoue. He would beat him at 135 10 out of 10 times. He's never going to beat Tank. Stylistically, Inoue's style for Tank is troublesome, but they're at a huge weight disparity. So it's like saying, oh, Canelo should fight Usyk. Like, what? It's just a pointless fight that people want. It's never going to happen. The next boxer up on the tier list is Teofimo Lopez, the 140-pound WBO champion. I've been a big fan of Teo. I was rooting for him against Loma. I never thought he'd beat Loma, but I was rooting for him. It was good to see him, beat Loma. He beat Josh Taylor, became, I guess you could say like a lineal champion. In my opinion, looking back on it, I do think that his two biggest wins are kind of hindered in a point, being that Josh Taylor isn't the same guy that he once was. We've seen it with Jack Catterall. Jack Catterall beat the shit out of him. Taylor had just not looked like the same guy since that first Jack Catterall fight. And I think that the version that Teofimo got was not the same guy. Also, Loma was hurt against Teofimo in their fight. So I think his two biggest wins just have that asterisk for me, because we've seen, Teofimo against these other low tier guys like Jermaine Ortiz. Jermaine Ortiz is a good fighter, so let me not say that. But, Steve Claggett, Pedro Campa, Sandor Martins, like, he's had lackluster performances against most of these guys. Besides Campa, even, before the stoppage, he was getting touched up a little bit. His power is not the same at 140. He is not that much bigger than Tank Davis. He's bigger than him 100%, but the size factor is not that huge. He's definitely going to be stronger than Tank. But the thing about Teofimo is he blitzes in a lot with his hands down. He's very gifted athletically, but I just think he's going to walk into a lot of Tank Davis's counters off the back foot. And Tank Davis, we know he's a good counterpuncher off the back foot. So Teofimo is going to be coming to him for the most part. I know he's been saying that he's going to box Tank, but he's a very egotistical fighter. He wants to look good and do a lot of razzle dazzle that he doesn't really need to do. And I think that's going to get him caught up against Tank. I think Tank's going to land a big left foot counter and put him away. Early on in the fight, he will win a lot of rounds. And I see Teofimo putting a lot of combinations on the high guard, just scoring, winning rounds. I can see Tank capitalizing on Teofimo's mistake in the later rounds. So I would have to put Teofimo at the decent chance tier. The next boxer up on the tier list is two-time gold medalist and IBF champion Vasiliy Lomachenko. Vasiliy is top 3 or 4, one of my favorite fighters. I love Vasiliy Lomachenko. He has one of the most interesting styles we've ever seen in the ring. At this point, I've seen a lot of people say that, Lomachenko is a little past it. Of course, he's past his physical prime, but I still think he's a very elite fighter. We've seen it against Kambosos. I don't rate Kambosos very highly, but what he was able to do to Kambosos has really not been done. He beat him from pillar to post, and then he stopped him. Nobody really has been able to do that. We know Kambosos is very tough. He stopped him to the body and essentially made him quit. So I think that's very impressive. The footwork of Vasiliy, yes, it's slowed down, but he still has the in and out footwork. He still could take angles. I think would be very troublesome for Gervonta Tank Davis, especially that he's going to be in the high guard. I think he's going to work around the high guard, take angles, dig uppercuts, dig to Gervonta's body. He's going to put a lot of volume and combinations on Gervonta. I'll put anything on it that he will 100% win at least 5 to maybe 6 rounds. He's going to win some rounds against Gervonta, 100%. The big thing, though, is that Gervonta is very quick on the counter, and I think he'll also counter off of Vasiliy's punches at times, and that's going to discourage Vasiliy, especially in the later rounds. Another thing with Vasiliy is we know he has a little, hinder to his game when it comes to the body punches. He doesn't like body punches. He's been dropped once against Linares, and he's been hurt a few times to the body. Devin Haney seemed to have hurt him to the body a few times, so I think that Gervonta would target the body and invest early. Gervonta is going to be very low output like usual, but I think most of his power punches are going to go to the body and it's going to, build up on Vasiliy. I think Gervonta would stop Vasiliy late, but if he's not able to get that stoppage, I'm very afraid that he'll lose too many rounds. Gervonta Davis is a supreme boxer, but I don't think he would take a boxing approach and try to win rounds against Vasiliy. I think he's going to look for that one big counter, or he's going to invest off of slips from, Vasiliy's punches and make him pay for it. So I don't really see him taking a boxing approach against Vasiliy. I would have to put Lomachenko at the decent chance tier. If he was in his prime, I would put him at 50-50 or beat Gervonta, but at this point, I have to put decent chance. Just being logical, even though I want to put him at the, the higher tiers, I just got to be logical. And also I have to mention that this would be one of the only fights that Gervonta would actually have the size advantage in. So he has another thing going for him there. And the last and final boxer on the tier list is WBC champion Shakur Stevenson. So the big thing for me in this matchup is who has the back foot and who has the front foot. And I think 80% of this fight is going to actually be Gervonta on the front foot, tracking Shakur down. We've seen against Nakatilia, we've seen against Santos, we've seen against, a few fights. When Shakur faces a power puncher, he fights a little different. He's on the back foot a lot. He's very evasive. He doesn't really want to exchange with the guy, give him the time of day. I think against Tank, Shakur is going to have to sit down with him at times. He's going to have to exchange in the 50-50s because Gervonta is one of the best ring cutters in the sport right now. He's eventually going to enclose Shakur Stevenson on the ropes, and Shakur is going to have to figure out a way, to take the angle or, duck under Gervonta's punches. But Gervonta is very good at timing guys or, feinting, and they make big movements, and he picks up on it and lands the uppercut or the hook. I can see him timing Shakur off the ropes similar to Frank Martin. In the open space, Shakur should win the battle with his jab, but I think Gervonta's straight to the body. And I also think Gervonta's jab can find the mark as well. I don't think it's going to be some case of, Shakur's just clearly outboxing Tank. Oh, my God. I think Tank's going to be very competitive in the boxing range. I think this is going to be the fight where Tank Davis finally, shows his full arsenal and his complete bag. I just think Shakur's not even going to be active enough to win the rounds. I think Gervonta could still be his typical low output and win the rounds just off straight impact. So I'm kind of, conflicted of what Shakur really would do. The crowd's going to be going crazy when Tank has Shakur on the back foot and, is landing blistering combinations. The crowd's going to be going crazy, acting like they just seen fucking Jesus Christ or some shit. And I think Gervonta could win rounds based off of that. Like I said, Shakur's jab, and if he stays disciplined, he could win some rounds. I just don't think it's going to be ultimately enough. And I think eventually Shakur is going to be very, very gun-shy once he feels Gervonta's power. He can say what he wants. He has a good chin, all this. We truly haven't even seen if he has a good chin, honestly. He hasn't really been touched. Credit on his part, but against Gervonta Davis, there's no way he avoids him for 12 rounds. It's not like we're dealing with, Wilder versus Fury or something like that. Gervonta can box as well. He has good footwork, and he's a very, very smart fighter. That's the most underrated part of Gervonta's game is his IQ. He has a punch. He can box, but the big factor is he knows what he's doing, and he's setting these guys up. We've seen it time and time again. So overall, I actually think Gervonta's toughest test is Liam Parro. People are going to be mad. They're going to be angry in the comments, but I think Liam Parro is Gervonta's hardest test at the moment. I would have to put Shakur Stevenson at the decent chance tier. I honestly don't think it's a 50-50 fight. I really don't. If you look at Shakur's offensive toolbox, it's really just jab, right hook, and occasional left hook. He doesn't really have, a complex bag, and I don't think he has the power to discourage Gervonta. And also, we see him with these hand problems. He's throwing a body shot and he's breaking his hand. It's kind of crazy because the body shot was more of like a placement. It didn't look like he put his all into the body shot and he hurts his hand. So, he might be one of these guys that have hand problems in the future. And I think it's going to have to be William Zepeda showing some godly chin and, just banking rounds and putting the pressure and the pace on Gervonta. Or it's going to have to be Devin Haney showing that he has some chin out of nowhere and, surviving and outboxing Tank, but I can't see that either. So Tank can have a great legacy when he retires, but he just has to fight these guys. That's all he has to do is fight these guys. I understand that right now at this moment it's very stagnant. There's really no one available, but after this Roach fight, he has to fight Teofimo. He has to fight Shakur. He has to fight Zepeda. He has to fight a legitimate champion to solidify his name and keep building on his resume and his legacy because he is a special talent.
Once I touch that jaw, you're going to sleep. I'll probably break your jaw. Facts.
What did you do?
I'm gonna split them open.
That's
I
cool.
promise you. I promise.
Yeah, you got it.
I promise your whole jaw.
Why you so mad?
I'm gonna break you up. I'm telling you.
Say what?
I'm gonna break your jaw. I promise you. Don't even bring your mother or your daughter. Don't bring them.
Oh, you're gonna see them.
Don't bring them. Don't bring them. I'm telling you.
Yeah.